nothing else, we'll work something out. Or, we're planning at this point to have a in-person meeting next Monday after next. So if you're in the neighborhood, that would work too.
Oh, a Monday sounds good. Definitely remind me, call me, or get me on the radio over here somewhere. I'm always over here. Okay. KF5GRH, waiting for Skynet.
Dallas Races Net, first and third Sunday.
I tried calling you. You never answer. Like you're dodging me. 17IV.
Oh, you have my old phone number. I feel so sorry for whoever has my old phone number. I have a new phone number. You want it?
Well, if you want to give it out on the air, I will be happy to take that. If not, I will suggest you just email it to me or give me a call or whatever, and we'll work something out.
Oh, everybody here can call me. No, just kidding. I'm not scared. It's on QRZ too. 469-653-7672. 469-653-7672. Yeah, I put it on QRZ. All my friends are here. No crazy people. Well, okay. Cat 5GRH.
No crazy people except Bill. All right. WT9V.
There could be these crazy astronomers that could call you at 3 o'clock in the morning. KF5JHA.
You laugh, but somebody called me at 2 o'clock this morning wondering where somebody else was 4 states away. I'm like, huh? Because I'd been asleep since about 10. Type of T9V.
Well, Michael, you shouldn't have given me your phone number.
That was Melissa's phone number, not my phone number.
W5FC.
Okay, everyone on the count of 3, call Melissa.
That would be so cool. KI5GRH. I'll see who gets through first. Maybe there's a prize. I'll let you know.
One ringy-dingy, 2 ringy-dingy. Oh, wait, that was from Laughing, wasn't it? Okay.
You have to hold your nose when you say that.
One ringy-dingy, 2 ringy-dingy.
WT9V, just to be legal.
Hello, this is KI5GRH. Who's the winning caller?
Do I win?
You.
Michael.
Michael wins. Very good. All right. Well, the is
what would be even funnier is that DIL, I don't know who that is, since he is the net control for Skynet, we should give him a call about, I don't know, 9:30, everyone, all at the same time?
Dope.
This is KF5JHA.
This is N5BB. Chad, did you see my email talking about how Bill's related to the man in the moon? It's astronomical.
Norris 5, Bill. Yeah,
Well, very good, Che. We'll call you Cha.
Isn't that some sort of Egyptian thing? Yeah, I'm going to have to look this up. I'll post a link or something on Echo Link while we're chatting during Skynet.
If anyone needs to use the repeater before we start Skynet, you've got less than 4 minutes before I take control. This is N5 Bill.
N5 Buzz, KONGBD.
Did you have a comment for me?
Nah, sorry. Just hearkening back to the surprise Plan B net last week.
Oh, well, I'm also N5BB. Anyway, less than 3 minutes. Warning, N5BB.
Ham Fixin's Net, first and third Monday, 7 p.m., W5FC. MCOM Net, second Monday at 7 p.m., W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet. Oh my, the tones are under control. This is N5BB. My name is Bill. It's November 5 Bravo Bravo. And I'll be your very own net control for this session of the Dallas Amateur Radio Club, Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. The net will last about 90 minutes. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for the net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from your net control. November 5 Bravo Bravo, me. And stations are reminded to identify at the end of your transmissions so I know you're finished talking. This weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using a W5FC-R station identification or Echolink node 37247. And I am logged into Echolink and I'm reading all the madness that's already occurring over there because Chaz is posting. Where was I? Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, and live audiovisual links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long, structured in several parts. General announcements: Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, National Space Society events, the discussion topic of the evening selected by the net control, which tonight is me, was up, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, and if we have time, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, and if I can get my screen to scroll here, astronomical questions and answers, followed by the 73 round where we leave. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to attend. So, let's start with short time check-ins. If there's any station that's short time, they can't stay very long, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
Kilo Golf 5 Uniform Foxtrot Romeo. Jacob Mobile in Dallas, short time.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India, WB4MFI, Ted Low Power, Dallas.
Okay, I'd like to recognize as short-time check-ins KG5UFR, Jacob, and WB4MFI, Ted. Do we have any other short-time check-ins? If so, please come now. Ted or Jacob, do you have any comments for the net before you leave?
No, thank you. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Okay, let's now go to general check-ins. We'll do Echolink later. General check-ins. Anybody wants to check in via RF, please come now to Skynet. This is N5BB Net Control. Please come with your call sign, name, and location.
This Kilo 1, Golf Bravo Delta, Guy in Lake Highlands.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, far, far northeast Dallas.
This is Kilo India 5 Golf Romeo Hotel. Finally didn't get doubled on.
This is Kilo 5 Kilo Tango X-Ray Kelly in Quinlan.
Kilo 5 Juliet Delta Whiskey John and Coppell.
This is Kilo India 5 Papa Whiskey November Tom in Plano.
Kilo Golf 5 Kilo Uniform David Mesquite.
Whiskey Bravo 5 Oscar Zulu Lima Brendan DeSoto.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
Okay, let's pause there. I would like to recognize Guy, K1GBD, Gus, W5GUS, Melissa, KI5GRH, Kelly, K5KTX, John, K5JDW, Tom, KI5, KI5PWN. Welcome to our little madness tonight, Tom. David, KG5UKU, Brenda, WB5OZL, Tony, NT5TM, and Tom, KE5ICX. Do we have any other RF check-ins for Skynet on RF? This is N5BB Net Control.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
Okay, I recognize Chaz, KF5JHA. I'm assuming normally from his abode in Mesquite. And James, KG5WVL. Do we have any other RF check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB. Okay, we got 15 so far. Let's look at Echolink. JJ, N5IMS. Do you want to talk? Are you on listen-only mode, JJ? Okay, listen only because he says he's got storms nearby. I got you, JJ. And let's see, David, KG5ZCT. I don't think I've heard you recently, David. KG5ZCT. Would you like to check into the net via voice, David? If so, go ahead.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Charlie Tango. This is David in Frisco.
Very good, David. We have you in Frisco. KG5ZCT. We got Kevin, N5KRG. How you doing, Kevin? You want to come in on voice?
Hey, Bill, N5KRG here. Probably short time.
We got you, Kevin, N5KRG. Now I'd like to recognize AG5PM, Rich. Do you want to come in on voice? I guess not. We got you checked in, Rich. How about Jay, KG5BZW? You want to come in on voice, Jay?
This is Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, J. Edward.
We got you, Jay. Okay, did I miss anybody? I did not call the people that were already checked in on RF on Echolink. Did I miss anybody on any mode that's not yet checked into Skynet? If so, please come now with your call sign, name, and location. This is N5BB, Net Control. Nothing heard. We have exactly 20 stations in that round of check-ins. Next. What's going on here? General announcements. Does anybody have any general announcements for this evening's net? This could be related to amateur radio, astronomy, space, or anything of interest to licensed hams. If so, please come now with your call sign only.
K5GRH.
K5KTX.
Recognize KI5GRH and K5KTX. Does anybody else have any announcements? Nothing heard. Melissa, you're first. What do you have? This is N5BB, Skynet Net Control.
Well, good evening, Bill, and everybody on the net, K5GRH. Friday, this coming Friday, we're going to have a CERT City where we'd like anybody who's ever had CERT training, even in Dallas or another state, if you have CERT training, we'd like you to check in and tell us what equipment you have and whether you'd ever be willing to deploy with us as a communicator or practice with us. And that's it. Just if you've ever taken any kind of CERT training, we'd like to know who you are and what you have. K5GRH. I forgot to mention it's Friday at 8 p.m. on this repeater. K5GRH. Back to you, Bill.
Thank you, Melissa. Does anybody have any questions about Melissa's CERT net announcement? If so, please come now. Nothing heard. Kelly, K5KTX, please go ahead with your announcement.
Thank you, Bill. This is K5KTX, and this is just a follow-up to the announcement I made last week, is that coming up this Thursday, from Thursday, June the 10th, until Saturday, June the 12th, there will be the virtual Texas Star Party. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. They have a number of outstanding speakers that will be presenting virtually online. And on, is it Thursday? Yeah, Thursday night, they will be hosting a star party from the Fort Bend Astronomy Club, their Georgia's observatory, which I think is somewhere west of Houston, I think. And so they'll be doing that Thursday evening, starting around just before 9 o'clock. But Thursday night, the speaker will be Larry Mitchell. And if you've ever been to the Texas Star Party, you'll know exactly who that is, because he is the person who comes up with all of the Texas Star Party advanced observing programs. And so he will be the speaker on Thursday night. Friday night speaker will be the well-known Stephen J. O'Meara, who is an Astronomy magazine contributor, and his talk will be on the night skies of Botswana. And the second speaker on Friday night will be Dr. Carl Gebhardt from the University of Texas at Austin. His talk will be characterizing dark energy with the Hobby Eberly telescope, which, of course, is located at McDonald Observatory. And then Saturday night, speaker will be David Levy, the famed comet hunter and author. His talk is called A Night Watchman's Journey, The Road Not Taken. And the final speaker Saturday night will be Stephen Hummel, who is a dark skies specialist at the McDonald Observatory, and he'll be talking about the Dark Skies Reserve in the Big Bend area. There will be all kinds of door prize drawings and some other things that will be happening. So if you go to texasstarparty.org, you can get the complete schedule and all the information, as well as the links to the virtual sessions. There are a number of places that will be hosting the sessions, and it is totally free. You do not have to register. Just show up. So again, next Thursday, June the 10th through Saturday, June the 12th, is the virtual Texas Star Party. And that's all I've got. This is K5KTX.
Okay, Kelly, remind us how we can attend that. Where do we go?
Just go to texasstarparty.org, which is the website, and right there on the home page will be a link to join the current session. You can also, right on the home page, there's a little graphic there that has the information, and right below that is a link that says Read More. And the Read More will have some information about the Star Party, and it will have a link to the detailed schedule, as well as a link to attend whichever session is going on at that time. So texasstarparty.org.
Very good, Kelly. That sounds very exciting. So again, Thursday through Saturday of this upcoming week, the 10th through the 12th of June, texasstarparty.org. I might take that. I might listen to that, Kelly. That sounds real exciting. Thank you very much for that information. That's the best announcement I've heard in a while. Over on Echolink, Shane and Bethany, would you like to come in on voice to the Skynet? This is in 5BB.
Control, this is Whiskey 0, Mike Bravo Charlie, Shane.
And Bethany. Hi, everyone in Dallas.
Hello, Bethany, and hello, Shane. We really enjoy you visiting us to hear about what's going on with astronomy and space. So I have a couple of other news items that popped up on my calendar. These are from the New York Times Astronomy and Space Calendar. If you subscribe to that, it'll send automatic calendar things to your computer calendar. The NASA Juno spacecraft is going to visit Ganymede, the largest moon in the solar system, on Monday. That's right, this upcoming Monday, June the 7th. So NASA recently decided to extend the Juno mission to 2025, allowing it to make brief flybys of some of Jupiter's brightest moons. So it's going to make a low-altitude pass of Ganymede. That should be very exciting. So you might look for that. Juno spacecraft, Monday, June the 7th, Ganymede flyby. Then there's going to be a very weird thing going on Thursday, the 10th of June. There will be a solar eclipse passing over the North Pole. Let me read this. This eclipse is unusual. It's an annual or ring of fire eclipse, which means the moon is too far from Earth to fully block the sun, but will fit entirely within it. It'll cross over the North Pole, so it first will travel north, then south, because it's going over the pole, then coming back down south. People in parts of Canada and Russia will experience the full ring of fire effect of the eclipse. Those living on the east coast of the United States may be able to briefly experience a partial solar eclipse. This is a nice preview of the amazing total solar eclipse that'll cross the United States in 2024. And I've got one more piece of astronomy news which I happened to notice. Of all things, on Physics World magazine and website, this is in 5BB. There's a new astronomer royal for Scotland. And for the first time, they've made history by appointing the first female astronomer royal for Scotland. The Astronomer Royal for Scotland office was created in 1834, and finally there's a woman there. Her name is Catherine Hymans, and she uses fun and humor to teach physics and astronomy. She wants to show that science is relevant to everyone. One initiative she has planned ensures that every primary school pupil in Scotland has the opportunity to peer at the sky through a telescope. Wow, that is a great initiative. Okay, that's all the news I have. Is there any other news before we continue with the net? This is N5BB, Skynet, or any late check-ins?
This is Kilo Golf 5 Echo India Uniform. David, St. Paul, Texas, check in.
Very good. So, David, I recognize you, KG5EIU in St. Paul. Now, let's move forward. Let me get back to my script. AMSAT locally has two nets that meet. This is the Amateur Satellite Corporation. On Tuesday nights, when there isn't a Dallas Amateur Radio Club night, the AMSAT Net East meets on this repeater at 8 p.m. And then on Wednesdays at 9 p.m., the west section of the net meets on the Arlington 147.14 megahertz repeater. And there's other Echolink and other AMSAT nets that are available. And of course, we have here on this repeater things going on Mondays, every Monday evening at 7 p.m. And it's different every week. Every day at noon, there is the noonday net on this repeater. Excuse me, Monday through Friday at noon, every weekday at noon. On Fridays, there's the CERT City Simulation Net. Tom General, if you're listening, the time is now 8 p.m. Is that correct, Melissa? The CERT City Simulation Net is now permanently at 8 p.m. Is that correct, Melissa? KF5GRH and 5BB.
K1GBD?
Yes, go ahead.
She might be out of range, but yes, sir, CERT City has moved to 8 o'clock p.m. on Fridays.
Thank you for verifying that, Guy. Yeah, I was sure that was right. So, Tom, K5ICX, if you're listening, you need to change the script. CERT City Simulation, 8 o'clock p.m. on Fridays. Then TechNet meets on Saturdays at 7 p.m. on this frequency. And then, of course, Skynet meets at 9 p.m. and AfterglowNet meets around 10:30 p.m. on Saturday night. And, of course, the first and third Sundays of every month, Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air is at 7 p.m. here on this frequency. And on the first Tuesday of every month, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting is either via a virtual means or in person moving forward, hopefully in September. Every night, there's a 6:30 p.m. traffic net on this repeater. So, again, lots of activities. Afterglow. Tom, do you want to read the Afterglow information for tonight? K5ICX and 5BB.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. I'll do exactly that. Here it is. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Spirit Flight 60. Non-stop service from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. We know you had a choice of airlines today, and you unfortunately decided to fly on ours. Our flight plan will take us over the Rockies, climbing to over 80,000 feet with all 4 engines turned off. We may have occasional time travel moments, such as going back to prehistoric times, the 1939 World's Fair, World War II, and of course, the obligatory UFO abduction. We'd like to remind everyone in the Mad Scientist section of the airplane, it is completely booked, so please make room for those showing maniacal tendencies maybe sitting next to you this evening. They should be easy to spot with their white lab coats and slide rules. We'd also like to remind passengers in the back of the airplane they may experience mid-air breakup and find themselves on an island with smoking monsters. So please, sit back, relax, and enjoy our 3-hour, 2-month trip to Washington, D.C., the 8th capital of America. So, join us for one of those movies. This one, the 1961 flight that disappeared, tonight at 10:30 p.m. This is a trope you've heard a bazillion million times before, but stepping out of the aircraft at 80,000 feet you've never done before. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Well, very good. Thank you very much, Tom. Chad? CHAZ reports on Echolink that a flash flood warning has now been issued for Collin County until 11:30 p.m. So you guys up there in north part of Dallas County, Collin County, are getting lots of rain. Well, over here in Irving, if there's any rain, it's minimal. Okay, next, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. Chaz, would you like to enlighten us? This is N5BB, Skynet.
Why, thank you, Bill. That would be BIL. The next Texas Astronomical Club meeting will be held on Friday, June the 25th at 7:30 p.m. The featured speaker will be Dr. Emily Levesque, author of the new popular science book, The Last Stargazers. It takes us behind the scenes tour of life as a professional astronomer. We'll learn about some of the most powerful telescopes in the world, meet people who run them, and explore the crucial role of human curiosity in the past, present, and future of science discovery. The Task Club members will receive an email link to the Zoom meeting. Yep, we're still Zooming it. And hopefully later this year, TASK will resume face-to-face meetings. And it looks like that maybe in July, we're going to start having some public observing sessions. Wow. Check out the website, texasastro.org, for updated information. I'm excited. Actual, in-person, public stargazings. Wow. This is KF5JHA, back to BIL.
Thank you very much, Chaz. When you look at the man in the moon, think of me. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about anything we've discussed so far? If so, please come now. Our late check-in. This is N5BB, Skynet.
N5SQA.
N5SQA. Hello, Ron. I'm checking you in. Any questions?
No questions. Just calling in to check in, and want to compliment Tom on his explanation of the movie I'm not going to watch. It was hilarious. N5SQA.
Well, as you may realize, Ron, he takes creative leeway to say things in his description which are completely false. But that's okay. Okay, next. It's time for National Space Society events and activities. I am the N5BB myself. I am the membership director of the National Space Society North Texas chapter. When we get back to meeting in person, which is not yet, we will be meeting at the Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving, corner of Beltline and 183. But we're still doing our meetings virtually. Our meetings are on the second Sunday of every month at 4 p.m. The coming meeting is going to be on May the 13th, and the speaker is going to be one of our members. He is the local members. He is our public Facebook and Twitter and public media kind of contact. His name is Pradipta Shrestha. I don't know what Pradipta's topic is going to be. He hasn't sent it out yet, but he's going to be making a presentation at the meeting the second Sunday of June, which will be, again, Sunday, June the 13th. And he may be talking about Nepal. We'll see. Okay, satellites going up from Nepal. but I'm not sure about that. We'll find out. Next, we have discussion topic of the evening, and that comes from me, since I am net control. This is N5BB, Skynet, sponsored by the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. The topic tonight is quantum astronomy could create telescopes hundreds of kilometers wide. Astronomers hope to use innovations from the subatomic world to construct breathtakingly large arrays of optical observatories. So this is from the current June issue of Scientific American magazine. Now I'm going to read the first part of this. A few years ago, researchers using the radio-based Event Horizon Telescope performed an extraordinary observation, the likes of which remain a dream for most other astronomers. The team... Wait a second. My smart speaker got activated. Sorry about that. The Event Horizon Telescope team announced in April 2019 that it had successfully imaged the shadow of a supermassive black hole in a nearby galaxy by combining observations from 8 different radio telescopes spread across our planet. So let me describe this. They were noticing that things in the background were being obscured by this supermassive black hole, which of course isn't very large. And these radio telescopes were spread across our planet, but they were able to use interferometry. This is when they synchronize very carefully the oscillators in these telescopes. And so they can make phase-sensitive measurements, not just amplitude, but phase-sensitive measurements simultaneously. This requires extremely good time and frequency transfer, which today is usually done by averaging out long-term monitoring of GPS satellites. Anyway, this technique effectively gave this telescope, this virtual telescope, the resolution or the ability to distinguish sources in the sky, at different angles, of an Earth-sized telescope. So, at the optical wavelengths underpinning the gorgeous pictures from the Hubble Space Telescope and many other famed facilities, today's interferometers can only combine light from instruments that are a few hundred meters apart at most. They set up an optical fiber link between these nearby telescopes, and they can only do them at telescopes which are on the same general location, a few hundred meters apart or less. That may be set to change as astronomers turn to quantum physics for help to start connecting optical telescopes that are tens and maybe even hundreds of kilometers away from one another. This is N5BB, Skynet. Such optical interferometers would rely on advances being made in the field of quantum communications, particularly the development of devices that store the delicate quantum states of photons collected in each telescope. These are called quantum hard drives, and such devices would be physically transported to a centralized location where the data from each telescope will be retrieved and combined with the others to collectively reveal details about some distant celestial object. This technique is reminiscent of the iconic double slit experiment, first performed by physicist Thomas Young in 1801, in which light falls on an opaque barrier that has two slits through which it can pass. The light recombines on the other side of the barrier, creating an interference pattern of bright and dark stripes, known as an interferogram. This works even if individual photons trickle through the slits one by one. Over time, the interference pattern will still emerge. So for those of you not familiar with the double slit experiment in quantum physics, it's like each photon, if you lower the rate of the photons so you can actually count them, they go through one by one. It's like each photon goes through two different paths at once. Actually, it goes through an infinite number of different paths. Only two of them have a slit there. And they then recombine on the far side. This is the crazy, there is no such thing as locality that you find in modern quantum physics. This is N5BB, Skynet. If we ever have two telescopes that can be made to behave like Young's slits, and we're able to get an interferogram on a source of light like a star on the sky, the interferogram tells you a lot of things about the source, says astronomer Jonathan Bland Hawthorne of the University of Sydney, whose team is proposing the use of quantum hard drives to build optical interferometers. Such instruments could one day help astronomers measure the sizes and intrinsic motions of stars and galaxies with far greater precision, a crucial ingredient in our understanding of the evolution of the cosmos. Although radio astronomers have already built impressive interferometers, that's mainly because interferometry is easier to achieve in radio frequencies than in optical frequencies for three reasons. First, radio antennas are cheaper to build than optical telescopes, so you can construct a lot of them pretty cheaply and spread them apart. Second, astronomical objects emit powerful radio waves, make it simpler to record these signals in individual antennas. Optical sources, however, are usually much, much fainter. So faint, the telescopes must often accumulate a celestial target's light literally one photon at a time. This turns interference into a quantum mechanical phenomenon. Third, Earth's atmosphere distorts optical light, leaving telescopes little time in which to collect the photons before the overlying layers of turbulent air disrupt their phase of coherence. And of course, if you're at different locations, this disturbance will be different because the atmosphere is different in different locations. Such constraints have limited the baselines of optical interferometers. That is, the largest separations between any linked telescopes. I'm now going to move quickly through this. In Mount Wilson Observatory in California, the CHARA has a maximum baseline of 330 meters. The European Southern Observatory's gravity interferometer has a maximum baseline of 130 meters. The ESO gravity instrument, these just don't have a very long baseline. So they're working to expand this greatly. And they're trying to capture the optical signals in some crystals, cooled to 2 Kelvin, very low temperatures. And then they may be able to keep them coherent for hours. So far, they've kept some of these coherent for 6 hours. Now, this is not light coming from a star, so there's lots and lots more to be done. But it's looking like it may be, theoretically possible. Okay, that's all I've got. I'm not going to read the other details there. Does anybody have any questions about that topic of the evening? This is N5BB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Skynet.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo, Zulu Whiskey.
Hello, Jay. Go ahead with your question or comment.
I realized you were kind of explaining it while I was trying to figure out what you were talking about. I'm just trying to understand this quantum hard drive business. And it's especially concerning, because there's I believe, there's a quantum corporation which actually has hard drives, so it's kind of confusing. It's like, do we have another name for the phenomenon they're trying to use for this, so-called quantum hard drive that I can use that I don't have to? I see some like a New Atlas article. I have no idea about Fizz.org. Yeah, okay. Maybe I should have just looked at my search results a little bit better. Is there anything that the article says, though, since I've already asked? That's basically it. KQ5BCW.
No, they don't use any other term. It's just a term they're using. Has nothing to do with a quantum company that does make mechanical hard drives. I'm familiar with those products. Has nothing to do with that. That's just what the scientists are calling them. So sorry about that. I know it's confusing, but that's the term they used in the article. The whole idea is to store the quantum state of these incoming photons and then transport them to a common location and then being able to perform interference between these quantum states. Currently, that's how they would have to do it, physically move them to a common location. In the future, they might be able to do it with long fiber optic lines, but the trouble is fiber optic lines are rather lossy. So currently, they're going to have to physically move these very, very cool crystals to a common location and then perform this science experiment to... Essentially, these quantum hard drives are just... They're storing the state of this incoming quantum from this other star, the astronomical source. So it's... that's why they're calling it that. It's just storing the quantum state of it. Okay, any other questions or comments before I continue, or late check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet. I'm not sure who that was. Joe, KG5ZMG. I noticed you over on Echolink. Do you want to check in on voice?
Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington.
Very good, Joe. I recognize KG5ZMG in Arlington in Echolink. And I hear some thunder in the background, unfortunately. If it gets too close, I'm going to probably get off the radio, but I'm okay for now. I could probably switch over to Echolink since I can operate that with no physical connection. Next. What's up? Chaz, tell us what's up. N5BB, Skynet.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, Bill, there's a thunderstorm forming really close to you, so yeah, I see that on the radar. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree's in astrophysics. I'm the astrophysics lab manager at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. We call this segment of Skynet Was Up. Slide number 2, Slide Master. Oh, by the way, Slide Master, I just want to let everyone know, if you're not watching the video stream for Skynet, Tom is wearing a plain shirt. He usually has all these shirts with planes on them, like Brandif Airlines and Southwest, and he's got a plain shirt tonight. There you go. Slide number 2 is on June the 2nd, the moon was at its third quarter, so the current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. On June the 7th, we heard about, not yet. June the 7th, the moon will be at apogee, which is the point of the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth. On June the 10th, we heard about an eclipse that's going to happen, but only visible to the North Pole, and that's when the moon will be new. On June the 17th, the moon will be at its first quarter. On June the 23rd, the moon will be at perigee, which is the point of the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth. Slide number 3, please, Slide Master. During the daytime of June the 7th and the 8th, there will be a daytime meteor shower called the Arids. Now, you can observe a daytime meteor shower? Really? Well, how do you do that? By using radio, by listening to particular frequencies and listening at a reflected radio signal from a distant station. This could indicate an ion trail that's produced by a meteor. Details on how to observe daytime meteors using amateur radio can be found at the American Meteor Society, amsmeteors.org, or the International Meteor Organization, IMO.net. You might be able to observe up to 30 meteors per hour. Wow, that's just in a couple of days. That's kind of cool. Slide number 4, please. On June 11th, there is a conjunction of the moon and Venus in the evening sky. Have you seen anything in the sky other than the sun occasionally during the day? Oh, well, it's been a month or so, but I've been able to see much. So start looking for both around 9 p.m. in the western sky on June the 11th. Slide number 5, please. Just 2 days later, in the evening of June the 13th, the moon will have moved close to the planet Mars for this conjunction in the western sky. Slide number 6. On the night of June the 16th, 17th, a very sparse meteor shower, the June Lyrids, will peak with a few meteors per hour. Remember that usually the best time to observe meteors is in between midnight and dawn, and the very best time is the hour just before dawn. Slide number 7, please. On June the 20th at 10:32 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Now write this down on your calendars. June 20th, 10:32 p.m. Central Daylight Time. That's the moment of the summer solstice, which is the astronomical beginning of summer. On this day in the northern hemisphere, we will have the longest day and shortest night of the entire year. I like that picture that you might be seeing on the video stream of sun. I think that's the sunrise over Stonehenge. Slide number 8, please. On the night of June 26th, 27th, could produce a dozen or more, or maybe up to 100 meteors per hour with this meteor shower. But a large number of visible meteors are not expected with the full moon being on June 24th, which will interfere with observations. And I am KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 9, please. Once again, the Texas Astronomical Society Club meeting will be on Friday, June the 25th at 7:30 p.m. It's a virtual meeting, and Emily Levesque will be the author, is the speaker, and she's going to be talking about her newest book, The Last Stargazers. It's going to be a fun meeting. And hopefully we're going to have face-to-face meetings later this year, and we'll resume having public observing sessions, that looks like in July. More about that in a later Skynet. TexasAstro.org is a place to get more information. Slide number 10, please. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information? Or do you just have a general astronomy question? I don't know everything. I like to hear questions, but I might have the answer to your question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question. Well, the students that ask me the question when I'm on campus at Brookhaven, when students ask me where do babies come from, I refer them to Building X, the second floor. Yeah, that's the biology department, so that's an answer to a question that wasn't even asked. Slide number 11, please. So as the moon wanes as it waned at the end of May, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And until my next segment in just a few moments, keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA. Back to our net control. North 5, Bill.
Yes, Chaz. Well, you know where babies come from. In 1938, Katharine Hepburn showed that baby was a big cat. That's where they came from. Katharine Hepburn had them. Okay, next. Do we have any late check-ins or comments? This is N5BB, Skynet. Okie dokie, I believe tonight it's Kelly's time. K5KTX, Kelly, can you tell us about space exploration and space history? This is N5BB, Skynet, net control.
Yes, it's me. This is K5KTX. Good evening again, everyone. So, this past week, NASA made an announcement that they had selected 2 new missions to Venus, Earth's nearest planetary neighbor. Part of NASA's Discovery program, the missions aim to understand how Venus became an inferno-like world when it has so many other characteristics similar to ours. It may have been the first habitable... can't say that word. First habitable world in the solar system, complete with an ocean and Earth-like climate. These investigations are the final selections from 4 mission concepts NASA picked in February of 2020 as part of the agency's Discovery 2019 competition. Following a competitive peer review process, the 2 missions were chosen based on their potential scientific value and the feasibility of their development plans. The project teams will now work to finalize their requirements, designs, and development plans. NASA is awarding approximately $500 million per mission for development. Each is expected to launch somewhere in the 20 to 2030 time frame. The first mission selected is Da Vinci Plus, which stands for Deep Atmosphere Venus Investigation of Noble Gases, Chemistry, and Imaging Plus. Da Vinci Plus will measure the composition of Venus's atmosphere to understand how it formed and evolved, as well as determine whether the planet ever had an ocean. The mission consists of a descent sphere that will plunge through the planet's thick atmosphere, making precise measurements of noble gases and other elements to understand why Venus's atmosphere is a runaway hothouse compared to the Earth. In addition, Da Vinci Plus will return the first high-resolution pictures of the unique geological features on Venus known as tesserae, which may be comparable to Earth's continents, suggesting that Venus has plate tectonics. This will be the first U.S.-led mission to Venus's atmosphere since 1978, and the results from Da Vinci Plus could reshape our understanding of terrestrial planet formation in our solar system and beyond. James Garvin of Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, is the principal investigator. Goddard provides project management. The second mission to Venus is called Veritas, which stands for Venus Emissivity, Radio Science, INSAR, Topography, and Spectroscopy. That is a mouthful. Veritas will map Venus's surface to determine the planet's geologic history and understand why it developed so differently than Earth. Orbiting Venus with a synthetic aperture radar, Veritas will chart surface elevations over nearly the entire planet to create 3D reconstructions of topography and confirm whether processes such as plate tectonics and volcanism are still active on Venus. Veritas also will map infrared emissions from Venus's surface to map its rock type, which is largely unknown, and determine whether active volcanoes are releasing water vapor into the atmosphere. Suzanne Schmeckar of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California is the principal investigator. JPL provides project management. The German Aerospace Center will provide the infrared mapper, with the Italian Space Agency and France's Centre National d'Etudes Spatiales contributing to the radar and other parts of the mission. As a side note, Dr. Schmeckar got her PhD in geophysics at my alma mater, SMU, in Dallas. Thomas Zurbuchen, NASA's Associate Administrator for Science, said that he expects powerful synergies across NASA's science programs, including the James Webb Space Telescope. He anticipates data from these missions will be used by the broadest possible cross-section of the scientific community. In addition to the two missions, NASA selected a pair of technology demonstrations to fly along with them. Veritas will host the Deep Space Atomic Clock 2, built by JPL and funded by NASA's Space Technology Mission Directorate. The ultra-precise clock signal generated with this technology will ultimately help enable autonomous spacecraft maneuvers and enhance radio science observations. Da Vinci Plus will host the compact ultraviolet to visible imaging spectrometer, or CUBIS, built by Goddard. CUBIS will make high-resolution measurements of ultraviolet light using a new instrument based on free-form optics. These observations will be used to determine the nature of the unknown ultraviolet absorber in Venus's atmosphere that absorbs up to half the incoming solar energy. So, a couple of missions to be looking forward to in the next few years. Now, in space history this past week, starting on May 30th, 1971, the Mariner 9 probe launched from Cape Canaveral, Florida. Following Mariner 8's failed launch 22 days earlier, Mariner 9 became the first mission to successfully orbit Mars. 3 previous Mariner missions had flown by Mars and sent back a limited amount of data. Getting into orbit around Mars was considerably more challenging, but allowed for a far greater analysis. Mariner 9 arrived in the sky above Mars during a massive planet-wide dust storm that prevented quality images from being taken. After a month, the storm subsided and Mariner 9 began mapping the surface. Its findings were groundbreaking. The cartography revealed ancient riverbeds, massive volcanoes, and a 3,000-mile-long canyon. Mars's moons, Phobos and Deimos, were also photographed from close range for the first time. After one bountiful year in orbit, contact was lost with Mariner 9. It remains in a decaying orbit around Mars. May 31st, 2015, the Cassini spacecraft made its final of Saturn's non-spherical moon, Hyperion, which is the largest of Saturn's irregular potato-shaped moons. It's particularly unique because of its low density and sponge-like appearance. After leaving Hyperion, Cassini visited other moons before beginning its grand finale, a series of dramatic dives between Saturn and its rings. On June the 1st, back in 2011, wow, that's 10 years ago, Space Shuttle Endeavour landed for the final time at 2:34 a.m. Eastern Time at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. On board was the crew of mission STS-134, returning after completing a 14-day mission to deliver the Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer, or AMS, as well as spare parts to the International Space Station. Over the course of 25 missions, Endeavour spent a total of 299 days in space, orbited Earth 4,671 times, and traveled over 122.8 million miles. Although Endeavour is retired, it continues to inspire. Today, you can visit the orbiter up close at the California Science Center in Los Angeles. On June 2nd, back in 1966, Surveyor 1 landed on the moon. It was NASA's first lunar soft lander in the uncrewed Surveyor program. This lunar soft lander gathered data about the lunar surface that would be needed for the crewed Apollo moon landings that began in 1969. The successful soft landing of Surveyor 1 on the Ocean of Storms was the first by an American space probe on any extraterrestrial body, occurring on the first attempt and just 4 months after the first moon landing by the Soviet Union's Luna 9 probe. Surveyor 1 was launched May 30th, 1966 from the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. Surveyor 1 transmitted 11,237 still photos of the lunar surface to the Earth by using a television camera and a sophisticated radio telemetry system. Also on June the 2nd, back in 1977, 14 delegates from nations around the world, as well as the United Nations Secretary Gerald Kurt Waldheim, recorded greetings for the Voyager space probe's golden records. These gold-plated copper records contained information on Earth's multitude of cultures so that any being who finds the records can play them. In total, 12 records were made, 2 of which were placed on Voyagers 1 and 2. Both probes launched a month apart in 1977. In addition to the delegates' messages, the golden records contain greetings in 55 dialects, including 54 languages and a humpback whale, as well as images from Earth and instructions on how to play the records. They also contain samples of the isotope uranium-238, enabling future spacefarers to measure the radioactive decay and determine the age of the records. On June the 3rd, back in 2014, the Curiosity rover witnessed Mercury passing in front of the Sun. This was the first time the Mercury transit was photographed from another planet. On June the 4th, back in 1998, the Space Shuttle STS-91, or Discovery, became the final space shuttle mission to dock with the Russian Mir space station. Commander Charlie Precourt, pilot Dom Gorey, mission specialist Wendy Lawrence, Franklin Chang Diaz, Janet Kavandi, and Russian cosmonaut Valery Viktorovich Ryumin were on board. Astronaut Andy Thomas, who had spent 130 days on Mir, joined the crew for the return trip to Earth. 1,100 pounds of water were transferred to the station, and long-term U.S. experiments that had been aboard Mir were transferred to Discovery. All right, and finally, in astronaut birthdays for this past week, May the 30th, 1958, Michael Lopez Alegría, who was part of Space Shuttle missions STS-73, 92, 113, and then also for Expedition 14, and he is slated to be on a interesting-looking mission next year called the SpaceX Axiom mission, or AX-1. June the 2nd, 1930, was the birthday of Pete Conrad, who was part of the Gemini 5 and Gemini 11, Apollo 12, and Skylab 2 missions. Also born on June the 2nd, 1956, was Mark Polanski, who was part of Space Shuttle missions STS-98, 116, and 127. June the 4th, 1965, was Shannon Walker, who was part of Expedition 2425, and she just returned not too long ago from the SpaceX Crew 1, or Expedition 64 and 65. On June the 4th, 1967, was Shane Kimbrough, who was part of Space Shuttle mission STS-126, Expedition 4950, and he is currently on board the International Space Station as part of SpaceX Crew 2, or Expedition 65 to 66. And finally, today, on June the 5th, 1956, Richard Sierfoss, who was part of Space Shuttle missions STS-58, 76, and 90. And that's all I've got tonight. This is K5KTX.
Very good, Kelly. This is N5BB Skynet. Does anybody have any questions or late check-ins? If so, please come now. Next, it's time for Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Take it away, Chaz. This is N5BB Skynet.
Thank you, Bill. Hello once again. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky in a year. In her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named it in her honor. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, actually this week, is two. It's a twofer. Coma Berenices here, or Berenices, and Canis Venatici, the hunting dogs. Slide number 13, please. Okay, I'm sure this is what all of you have been waiting for, the jokes of the week. All right, here we go. Now, these are usually related to the constellations, and these are. Why aren't dogs good dancers? Because they have two left feet. Oh, come on, I hear some of you laughing out there. Come on, that's good. How do dog catchers get paid? By the pound. What do you mean, Tom? You're not laughing out there? What are you doing? Booing and hissing? Is that what you're really doing? Which dog always knows what time it is? Oh, come on. Type in the answer over in Echolink. I know somebody can do this. What dog always knows what time it is? Oh, if you've already got the script, you already know what the answer is. Yes, Kevin, that is correct. A watchdog. How do I know Kevin's responding? That's over on Echolink. Okay. Why do bees have sticky hair? It's because they use a honeycomb. Yes, I'm being encouraged. Thank you very much, Tom. How does Moses style his hair? With a parting. I think you can get it. Yeah, he parts it. Very good, JJ. Very good. And the final one for this evening, at least in this segment anyway. Because of lockdown, my hair has never been longer. But it is really starting to grow on me. So, slide number 14, please. Constellations of Coma Berenices and Canis Venatici can be found tonight almost directly overhead, if it were clear, between the constellations of Boötes and Leo. There are lots of things to take note of in these constellations. I'll talk about several of them. I initially had 9 pages of information on these constellations, but I cut it down to only 2 pages. That way we might have time for other segments on Skynet tonight. Slide number 15, please. Coma Berenices was recognized as an asterism until, which used to belong to the constellation of Leo. Tycho Brahe was the first to recognize it as a distinct constellation. The constellation is one of the few constellations to be named after a historical figure. In this case, Queen Berenices II of Egypt, wife of Ptolemy III. Slide number 16, please. Malet 111, that's the name of an object, is the Coma star cluster, visible to the naked eye because it is made up of 5th and 6th magnitude stars. It is a real star cluster, not just a chance alignment of stars, and is known also as a designation of Colander 256. The clusters consist of about 80 members scattered across about 5 degrees of the sky. It is 260 light years away. The cluster is one of the nearest open clusters to us. For many people, the cluster is not just Coma Berenices? It is Coma Berenices. Slide number 17, please. Next is M53, a compact globular cluster. It looks like a fuzzy star in an 80 millimeter refractor at about 8 power. At 16 power, it has some width, and at 38 power, it has a noticeably brighter core, surrounded by a faint, wispy outer regions, but it will not resolve at all. No individual stars are visible. In an 8-inch telescope, however, it does begin to resolve. More aperture is needed to better resolve it. It can be completely resolved in a 12-inch or larger telescope. I just recently saw it with my 16-inch telescope at the West Texas Star Party, and it was a beautiful star cluster. Slide number 18, please. M64 is a black-eyed galaxy, and an 80 millimeter telescope is just a tiny smudge at 8 power. It takes on a noticeable elliptical shape at 16 power. In an 8-inch telescope, it has an obvious stellar nucleus. The nucleus is surrounded by a fuzzy oval. The dark dust bands that form the black eye are not visible in such, but instead the oval is asymmetric, as if one side were cut off parallel in the long axis of the oval. In a 12-inch or larger telescope, it begins to look like its namesake. And in a 16-inch telescope, it does look like a black eye. Interesting. Slide number 19. Photographs show M88 to be a nice spiral galaxy. It is an obliquely angled spiral similar to M31, the Andromeda galaxy. In fact, Stephen J. O'Meara writes that the astronomer J. Malus aptly described M88 as resembling the Andromeda galaxy, depicting it in a very small scale photograph. In a 16-inch stub, you should see some modeling in M88, and I did, but may be hard to pick out individual dust lanes. I'm not sure if I saw dust lanes. This is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 20, please. Canis Venatici, the hunting dogs, does not have any bright stars, but it does have some interesting stars. In a small northern constellation that was created by Johannes Helvius in the 17th century, its name is Latin for hunting dogs, and the constellation is often depicted in illustrations as representing the dogs of Boötes, the herdsman, a neighboring constellation. Corcorali is the constellation's brightest star with an apparent magnitude of 2.9, and it is a binary star. Slide number 21, please. M3 is a wonderful globular cluster. You can find it about halfway between Corcorali and Arcturus. It's easily seen in binoculars and even in smaller telescopes. You can see some of the individual outlining stars. With larger telescopes, 8 inches and larger, you should be able to resolve individual stars clear to the core of M3. It's about 34,000 light years in distance. I've always had a difficult time finding it in the city because it's not really close to bright stars. But it's easy to pick out if it's a dark environment like in West Texas. Slide number 22. The rest of the deep sky objects are beautiful galaxies. M94 are also known as the Croc's Eye galaxy. Isn't that cool? Croc's Eye? It can be found a little bit north of halfway point between Alpha and Beta Canis Venatici. In a 12 or 13-inch telescope, it appears as a bright fuzzy comet. Photographs show a beautiful spiral galaxy. It's about 14 million light years away. Slide number 23. M63, the sunflower galaxy, when looking at a photograph, it does look like a sunflower. You can find it about 1/3 of the way between Corcorali, 1/3 of the way between it and what? Oh, I didn't write down what. Once again, binoculars, you can see it as a faint fuzzy object. In small telescopes, you can easily be found. But in a 10-inch or larger telescope with 200 magnification and a good seeing conditions, you can easily see it. It is 37 million light years away. In slide number 24, we're going to talk about M51. M51 is also called the Whirlpool Galaxy. It's a showpiece galaxy located in between the stars Alkaid, which is in the Big Dipper, and Coralie. M51 is located just off that handle of the Big Dipper. It can be easily seen in binoculars in a dark sky location. The graceful winding arms of the majestic spiral galaxy M51 appears like a grand spiral staircase sweeping through the sky. You understand I swipe these words. They are actually long lanes of stars and gas laced with dust. Such striking arms are a hallmark of so-called grand design spiral galaxies. These arms serve as an important purpose. They are the star-forming factories compressing hydrogen gas and creating star clusters of new stars. Some astronomers think that the Whirlpool arms are particularly prominent because of the effects of a close encounter with NGC 5195, a small yellowish galaxy at the outermost tip of one of the arms of M51. The compact galaxy appears to be tugging on the arm, the tidal forces which are triggering new star formations. Hubble's Hubble telescope clear view shows that NGC 5195 is passing behind M51. This small galaxy has been gliding past the Whirlpool for hundreds of millions of years. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 25, please. There are more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellations of Como Berenices here, and Canis Venatici, the hunting dogs. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has over 70 different observing programs. Most have about 100 objects in it. If you observe just 10 objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year. Slide number 26, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Como Berenices here, and Canis Venatici, the hunting dogs. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on the deep sky objects that I've used, borrowed, and stolen for tonight. I also, at times, have used the website constellation-guide.com for information. Next time, I'll take a look at Virgo, the maiden. And we'll send this back to Bill N5BB. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, Chaz. This is N5DB, Skynet. I've had to switch over to Echolink because there was some nearby lightning. So, do we have any other check-ins? Any late check-ins or comments for Skynet? This is N5DB, net control, over.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
I recognize KB9SOK. Hello, Sean. Okay, let's see. The next for a business, we're not quite finished with the net. We got a little bit more time. Tom, let's get space launches of the week right now, and let's go directly down to Brenda. Brenda, can you tell us about recent astronomical discoveries? WB5OZL, this is N5DB. Skynet.
This is WB5OZL, sure. The title of this article, and I may not get through it all because it's a bit long, the title is
a new dimension in the quest to understand dark matter. Dark matter research program targets assumptions about particle physics. As its name suggests, dark matter, material which makes up about 85% of the mass of the universe, emits no light, eluding easy detection. Its properties, too, remain fairly obscure. Now, a theoretical particle physicist at the University of California, Riverside, and colleagues have published a research paper in the Journal of High Energy Physics that shows how theories positing the existence of a new type of force could help explain dark matter's properties. We live in an ocean of dark matter, yet we know very little about what it could be, said Flip Tenedo, an assistant professor of physics and astronomy and the paper's senior author. It is one of the most vexing known unknowns in nature. We know it exists, but we do not know how to look for it or why it hasn't shown up where we expected it. Physicists have used telescopes, gigantic underground experiments, and colliders to learn more about dark matter for the last 30 years, though no positive evidence has materialized. The negative evidence, however, has forced theoretical physicists like Tenedo to think more creatively about what dark matter could be. The new research, which proposes the existence of an extra dimension in space-time to search for dark matter, is part of an ongoing research program at UC Riverside led by Tenedo. According to this theory, some of the dark matter particles don't behave like particles. In effect, invisible particles interact with even more invisible particles in such a way that the latter cease to behave like particles. The goal of my research program for the last 2 years is to extend the area of dark matter talking to dark forces, Tenedo said. Over the past decade, physicists have come to appreciate that in addition to dark matter, hidden dark forces may govern dark matter's interactions. This could completely rewrite the rules for how one ought to look for dark matter. If two particles of dark matter are attracted to or repelled by each other, then dark forces are operating. Tenedo explained that dark forces are described mathematically by a theory with extra dimensions and appear as a continuum of particles that could address puzzles seen in small galaxies. Our ongoing research program at UCR is a further generalization of the dark force property, he said. Our observed universe has 3 dimensions of space. We propose that there may be a 4th dimension that only the dark forces know about. The extra dimension can explain why dark matter has hidden so well from our attempts to study it in a lab. Tenedo explained that although extra dimensions may sound like an exotic idea, they are actually a mathematical trick to describe conformal field theories, ordinary 3-dimensional theories that are highly quantum mechanical. These types of theories are mathematically rich, but do not contain conventional particles, and so are typically not considered to be relevant for describing nature. The mathematical equivalence between these challenging 3-dimensional theories and a more tractable extra-dimensional theory is known as the holographic principle. Okay, that's about half the article, so I'm going to have to quit because it's 10:29. This is in ScienceDaily.com if you want to go and read more about it. So I'll turn it back to the net. This is WB50ZL.
Thank you very much, Brenda. Tom, do we have any really exciting launches coming up here in the next week? K5ICX 105DB, last hurrah before we close the net.
Oh, not really, Bill. I'll give it back to you. I think you meant satellite passes, but it doesn't matter. In either case, shut her down. She's sucking mud. Back to you, KE5I6.
About that. I hit the wrong button and checked out of Echolink. I'm back now. Very good. So I'm going to go on and close the net down. Before I do that, any last check-ins? Any last check-ins before we close Skynet? This is N5BB net control. Go ahead. I'm having trouble with echoing delay here. Was there a station trying to check in? If so, please give your call sign phonetically several times in a row. This is N5BB, Skynet, last check-in. Station calling has no audio, or it's so low we can't understand it. So tonight we had 25 check-ins participating. Thanks to all who checked in on this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration on Skynet. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for new net control stations for this and other Dallas Amateur Radio Club nets. If you'd like to try your hand, send an email to nets@w5fc.org or talk to any net control. You can follow topics and discussion about this net astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter. Go to w5fc.org to find other resources about Skynet. Until next Saturday night, this is N5BB, Bill, closing a net at 10:32 p.m. Central Daylight Time. We're turning the repeater to normal amateur radio use until we get on the Afterglow net. I'm going to turn it over to Tom, KE5ICX, and have him announce the Afterglow net. N5BB clear. Good night.
Thanks, Bill. Great net, and I loved your topic this evening. It was A+. This is KE5ICX. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. We do have the possibility, I guess, of Skywarn. We'll find out if that happens. We'll let you know. Come on back in about 5 minutes. We will talk about the movie Flight That Disappeared from 1961. Back in 5. KE5ICX. here comes the question. Who would like to be net control? Who would like to be the maniacal voice tonight for this alien something in abduction movie? Please come with your call. You know you're there. You can even talk with the supervillain voice. K5A&E, are you out there? Anyone else? Everyone is scared of the weather?
The weather is good, but my smoke machine has broken. I cannot be net control. NT5TM.
Okay, well, I got back channel stuff. I know people in high places, or low people in high places, or high people in low places, Tony. So it's okay. I'll expect a break very enthusiastically in case anybody needs to use the repeater. I don't know who that would be. So stand by. Where are we at? 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Okay, I'll do it because nobody else will. Nobody wants to be net control for the Afterglow Movie Net, but everybody wants to participate. Well, a few people want. Well, a couple of people want to participate, but all right. Please stand by. All right, we are 5 minutes into the net, so this is KE5ICX. Yeah, I'll be net control. It's okay. You guys worked the hell out of me last week, but Bill was net control. Now Bill was net control, and we worked the hell out of him tonight. So I'll go ahead and do it. In case there's an emergency like Skywarn, something blows up, or CERT needs to be involved, we know all you folks are out there waiting patiently or impatiently to save us all. In this case, though, right now, until something weird happens, this is the Afterglow Movie Net. So what is the Afterglow Movie Net? Well, the Afterglow Movie Net is about a movie that you're assigned to watch. You get a whole week to watch it, and then you take notes on it, or not, and decide things like, was the plot any good? Were the characterizations any good? Were the special effects any good? The sound, the acting, the music, the storyline, you know, all that stuff. Did it work out? And we have a tendency to do mostly science fiction, and in fact virtually all but maybe a couple of films been science fiction. And as such, we all know that science fiction has a tendency to go off the deep end because people who do science fiction are somewhat suicidal to begin with because you have to do so many things to make a movie work. You have to do world building. You got to create credible characters. You've got to have science that makes sense, and then you got to have a story grafted on top of all of that, and as we all know, grafting plants and otherwise usually don't work. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Okay, we're 5 minutes into the Afterglow Movie Net. So this is KE5ICX. Yeah, I'll be net control. It's okay. You guys worked the hell out of me last week, but Bill was net control. Now Bill is net control. And Bill was net control. Now Bill is net control. And Bill was net control. Now Bill is 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 net control. Now once in a while, there's a movie, there's a thing that really clicks on all cylinders. Really, you're cooking with gas, man. Everything goes exactly to plan. The movie we're going to discuss tonight is not one of those. But if it were, what would it be like? How would it work? What would make this film go over the top and people love it? Drugs usually work the best, and that's for the director. But tonight we're going to talk about the movie called Flight That Disappeared, or as some people who go freaking nuts, The Flight That Disappeared. Anal retentive types wanted to say The Flight That Disappeared, but actually the movie was released as Flight That Disappeared. So, what we'll do is we will discuss a few things. We'll start with the plot. We will follow it with characterization, the actors playing characters. Thirdly, we will probably get to the special effects or editing and all of that. I doubt there'll be a fourth round. Usually everything happens on the third round. So, this is what we'll do. I'm going to go ahead and give you the plot real quick. Think about, and everybody's forming up. Part of this is vamping because there's traffic handling over on 7-2, so we give people a chance to come over if they're over there listening. So I'm going to give you the plot. Listen up, everybody. Transcoast and Crash Airways Flight 60 leaves Los Angeles on a flight to Washington, D.C. 3 scientists on board the transcontinental flight have been summoned to a classified meeting at the Pentagon concerning the Beta Bomb, a new bomb design and a rocket to deliver it. Mid-flight, the Douglas DC-6 airliner mysteriously begins to climb to over 10 miles high. Back at airline headquarters, operations manager Hank Norton, who today picked the wrong day to quit sniffing glue, tries to keep in contact with the flight, but it is sure that nothing can be done to save the passengers and crew. The engines stop. The passengers pass out due to the lack of oxygen. Crazed passengers Walter Cooper, who has tried to convince others that using the secret bomb is essential, jumps from the aircraft. Without a parachute, by the way. 3 scientists, Dr. Carl Morris, Tom Endicott. I love that name. I use that name for pilots all the time, but he's not a pilot. He's played by Craig Hill. And Marcia Paxton find themselves in a limbo state. How low can you go? Let's find out. Watches stop, and no heartbeats. Meeting the examiner, Gregory Morton, the trio of scientists leave the aircraft for judgment, Q style, from those from the future. They find themselves in a moment between time, which explains the stopwatches and the lack of heartbeats. I guess that means that what is it? It takes a licking and keeps on ticking. Not anymore. Hold on. Reset. And this is KE5ICX, in case you were wondering. They are shown in brief a future where their bomb has been used and, having destroyed the atmosphere, has killed off all life on the planet. They are judged guilty and sentenced to live in the moment with no time for the rest of eternity, where the future and the past meet. In other words, it's going to be a Mad Max marathon. After the siege, objects that the scientists from the past cannot be judged by a future society. Wait a minute. After the siege, objects that the scientists from the past cannot be judged by a future... What? They are returned to the present on this technicality. The passengers have no memory of anything of any of the actions on board before passing out, with the exception of Endicott, great name, the rocket engineer, and Dr. Morris, calling Dr. Morris. Marcia Paxton only thinks the event was a dream. Walter Cooper reappears, and the flight crew do not seem to have any recall of the emergency that took place on the flight. When Captain Hank, I'm watching Hawk on the other program, but Captain Hank Norton calls for landing instructions. The airline office is perplexed. When their airliner lands at Washington, the passengers and crew discover they are 24 hours late. Yeah, Spirit Airlines. Thus proving Endicott's fantastic story of the trial and judgment. Dr. Morris, the nuclear bomb designer, disposes of his notebook containing the formulas and designs for the bomb. The end. I will now take check-ins. Anyone who dares to state that they have seen the flight or flight that disappeared. If you're anal retentive, the name of the movie is The Flight That Disappeared. If you are more free-flowing, Flight That Disappeared will work. If you just want to talk about really bad jet airliner, well, it isn't even a jet airliner. It says jet airliner on the thing, but it's not. If you just want to talk about crappy movies with science fiction bents with aircraft involved, and we know there's a ton of them, here's your opportunity. In any case, I will take your call sign phonetically, your name. If you want to give me where you're transmitting from, that's fine, but let me know most importantly, did you see Flight That Disappeared? And if you didn't, that's okay, because you can judge others who did watch it. So let's begin. Call sign, name, where you're transmitting from, did you see Flight That Disappeared from 1961? Here we go.
This is Bravo, Bill, Irving amongst the thunderstorms. Yes, I saw this movie. This is Kilo 1, Golf Bravo Delta, Guy in Lake Highlands amid the thunderstorms, and I am 44 minutes through the movie and just right before the point where all of the stuff that makes it all make sense happens, so I'm a hybrid.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I seen the movie.
WV5OZL, Brenda in DeSoto. I saw it, but somehow I lost 24 hours of my life by watching it. Haven't figured that out yet.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Yeah, I want those 24 hours back too. I guess I saw it.
All right, let me go ahead and get those five. I got N5BB, Mr. Bill Irving. Yep, he saw Flight That Disappeared. K1GBD, Highlands. You try and say that. GBD. Well, you can do it because it's your initials. In like Highlands, yes, he saw it. KB9SOK, Sean in Fort Worth. Yep, he saw it. WB5OZL, Miss Brenda, who picked this movie in DeSoto. Yep, she saw it. NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. Yes, he saw Flight Disappeared from 1961. Anyone else? Additional check-ins. Come on, you know you want to.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, Daniel Weatherford. I've seen the film.
Okay, I got KG5BZWJ near Weatherford over on Echolink. Okay, I'm calling out Echolink. Well, let's see who we got. Well, we may have one more in there. Guy is the guy who's pilot suddenly makes it. No. What? Let's see. Anyone else on Echolink who'd like to join us, please come now. Anyone, anywhere, any place who would like to join us this evening for tonight's movie, Flight That Disappeared from 1961. You don't necessarily have to have seen it, but it is required you've seen some movie with aircraft in it with things going wrong, which is just about every movie ever made with aircraft in them. Anyone else like to join us, please come now with your call sign. All right, I beat this dead horse to living, so we'll have opportunities to get additional people in here, I think. We'll find out. So it's a small group, but I have a suspicion it will probably grow. So I'm going to use the random number generator, so, okay, that's number 1. I close my eyes and hit the button. So I'm going to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and me. Okay, here we go. Everybody ready? Listen close because it's not in the order you think it is. Tony, you lucky Tony, NT5TM. You get to tell us about the plot on this fine film. Please go ahead.
Well, the first thing I think of when I think of this movie is actually a bizarre one-hit wonder song from the 80s. So every time you say Endicott, I think that, like, Endicott works from 6 to 9, but Endicott's home by 9:05. It's not a good song. If you look it up, you have only yourself to blame. But every time someone says that name, that's what I'm thinking of. So the plot was slow. Uh-oh, I thought we had a key up from landing there. And really, it's hard to find anything in particular to say about it. It seemed very typical, very ordinary and generic. The plane starts off doing something routine and ordinary, and then climbs up, and then things begin to get a little strange, but not too strange too quickly, because otherwise someone might do something about it. Then we have kind of the traditional, not nearly as good as the day the Earth stood still, moment of judgment where people begin to question, do we really need giant, massive bombs and super rockets? And I guess the woman was a mathematician who had spent her services to making super bombs and super rockets. Do we really need all these things? And the answer is yes, because they're on sale on eBay. So, I don't know, not original, not nearly as good as the day the Earth stood still. And Endicott helps to cook the steak. NT5TM.
Very good. Thank you, Tony. And I remember Captain Endicott from the Out-of-Towners. When Captain Endicott, he was the captain at the very end of the movie where the 707 is going back from New York to Chicago, and the plane gets hijacked to Cuba at the very end. And it was Captain Endicott over the microphone. You never saw him over the speaker system. You never saw him. So I use Captain Endicott anytime I have some wacky, weird thing to say about aircraft. It's always Captain Endicott because it sounds like an authoritative name. But in this case, it's not Captain Endicott. It's a scientist, I think. Okay, next up, and I put this in random order, I've got Brenda, WB50ZL, and then after her, I've got KG5BZW. So, number 2 on the list, in random order, is Brenda, WB5OZL. Tell us about the plot for Flight That Disappeared from 1961. This is KE5ICX.
Why, thank you, Tom. This is WB5OZL. You know, I used to think I was the worst plane fanatic in the world, but apparently not. Tom is worse. Tom will watch any movie just because it has airplanes in it, no matter how unwatchable the movie is. The planes were the best part, although, you know, it's funny that the poster has this jet plane on it, and then the movie has a DC-6. There was a nice shot of a Connie. I did enjoy that. And I guess a bad movie with planes is better than no movie? I don't know. The plot just stank. It was so implausible, and the old trope of judging humans because you know, we're messing up the world, and we're all going to kill each other, and we're all going to die in a war. And how many times has that been done? How many movies have we seen where they judge the human race by what we're doing? And so you have a guy that throws his note in the trash. Yeah, nobody else is going to make that bomb. You know, and the crazy guy says, we need to bomb them first. Oh, sure, that's a great idea. So, illogical things happen. The plane climbs to 80,000 feet. It's lost. When they come home 24 hours later, the people on the ground are mildly bewildered, and there weren't any people waiting in the terminal for 24 hours, worried about their family that didn't come home. I think it would cause a little more excitement than it did. And so these people, whoever they were, people from the future, hijacked this plane, and they're going to put these 3 people on trial. Well, what about the rest of the people in the plane? What did they do? You know, what was going to happen to them? Just everything was so illogical. You know, only some of the people got oxygen masks. And here's this woman smoking with oxygen. It's like these people don't have any life experience at all, the people that made this movie. I could go on and on and on, but I don't want to hog up the air. So I will turn it back. WB5OZO.
All right, Miss Brenda, I don't think you're going to be hogging the air tonight. It's the air is very rarefied, so we don't have a lot of people. But we'll see what happens. Maybe there'll be a mob with fists angry about how they could take aviation and turn it into this nosedive of a movie. But we don't know. All right, next up, Jay, wake up. KG5BZW, you are next, and then after that comes Sean, KB9SOK. I'm giving you a heads up, gang. Here you go. Jay, tell us about the plot to the movie Flight That Disappeared, or if you're retentive, The Flight That Disappeared. Jay, go ahead, from KE5ICX.
This is KG5BZW. Yeah, I don't want to talk about the plot. No. I'm not going to talk about the plot. I'm going to talk about something else. That's how I feel about the plot. Honestly, I got more just entertainment or more spike. What am I trying to say? really much. I'm having my normal problems with words issue here. Peak of curiosity, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. With the whole arrangement of the airplane, and I kind of wondered how, just what about it was realistic and what was not. All the open, were aircraft back then, did they have just open containers, open spaces above people, that you could store whatever, and, whatever was up there wasn't expected to fall, maybe because, I don't know, except for they did fly at somewhat conventional, I'm not sure the total airline, almost spacing for airlines, like 22,000 seems a little bit low for what they do today, but I don't know, I don't know the lower end of it, I know. Anyway, I was just thinking about air turbulence and all that, and how that would not quite work, but maybe this was just, they hadn't really learned that was a real risk yet. The lounge area was kind of interesting. Did that kind of thing exist? I have some doubts about that, but again, I'm just like, now I'm trying to, it's like, it's been too long since I've been to the aviation history museum in Dallas, and I feel like Braniff would pull off something like that, so I'm wanting to go back to the museum just to see what kind of stuff they would do or not. If I have to address the plot, it really just did not make any sense. I don't want to call this a horrible movie, but it was not good. Actually, there are plots that make even less sense than this, but it did not make much sense. There's just too many things that they really need to explain to have something of a story that they didn't explain, and it's okay to leave some things that are going to explain, but there's just not really much there. I kind of feel like somebody's heart was in the right place, but that doesn't make a movie good. I think I better stop. Hold on. Okay, hopefully I didn't time out the repeater, or the repeater is okay. So I guess that's not 2 cents. KG5 BCW.
Alright, thank you, Jay. And this is KE5ICX, net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. Tonight's movie is Flight That Disappeared from 1961. I will continue down the list, and those of you listening in who may have checked in, you still get a chance to talk about the movie here in a bit. Next up on my random list is KB9SOK. That would be Sean, and he'll be followed by N5BB. So Sean, KB9SOK, tell us what you thought about the plot from KE5I6.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I think a lot of it's been said. I will say it's not the worst movie we've ever watched, so I guess that's a positive. The whole thing was, well, it started off pretty slow even to start with, and we focused, this movie seemed to focus a lot on the head pilot getting his training to move on to jets, which actually might have been the most interesting part of this whole thing as I sit there and watched it, because I actually hadn't really given much thought about it back in those days. It must have been an interesting transition to be going from prop planes to jet engines, and And I bet some pilots probably did have a struggle with that. So really that was the most interesting thing I took out of the whole movie is I just never really gave that much thought. I'm sure that probably was a very stressful time for those pilots back in those days because that had to be pretty massively a big change for them. Other than that, yeah, the whole plot was, it made no sense why for them to hijack the plane. Why did they have to take it up so high? That didn't make a whole lot of sense. Why not just, if you're going to come up with a plot that doesn't make any sense, just grab it out of the air? So I don't know really what that was. Obviously, this was a movie supposed to be a tale of warning of, nuclear weapons, and I can see that in 1951 being a concern and on everybody's mind. So it made sense. But there's, like everybody said, this movie's been done so many times, cautionary tale about nuclear weapons. Today we've transitioned into cautionary tales of AI and robots, and that seems to be taking the place of the nuclear weapons, worrying about our future, and it's environmental stuff. And then the whole trial thing. Once they started that, I started sighing. I thought, oh no, not another trial of humanity. We've seen this in every single Star Trek series. We've seen it in multiple other series, and they've all done it much better than this one did. The whole trial was just made no sense. So yeah, it's the most interesting part of this movie was really just kind of, looking at the old plane and thinking about what it was like back then. Because I didn't get a chance to fly on a plane until the more modern age where there were jets. So I'm sure that was interesting back then. I'm curious, though. Anybody's flown on one of those, were they really that quiet inside the cab? I thought planes were supposed to be noisy. But anyway, yep, it's a shame that the actual movie didn't disappear, not the flight. That's all I got. Back to Net Control. This is KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. And I've flown commercial prop, but it was DC-3, 036, which was part of PBA back in the 80s and 70s, actually. And that was a tail dragger. It was a DC-3. And that's the only one I ever flew that way. And it was quite interesting. The only thing that I came close was the what was it? B-24 that I was on. So that was a prop job about 5-6 years ago, I think it was. Okay, enough about me. Let's talk about me. No, let's go on to Bill, N5BB. Bill, comments on the plot. I know you got them. And this is KE5ICX. Go ahead.
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. Now on Echolink because, according to the radar, the storms are headed my way and not too far away. So I don't want to be transmitting on a radio holding a microphone with an outside antenna. Anyway, I made my notes on a piece of paper, and I'm not throwing my notes away like they did in the movie. So some comments. First, I think this is supposed to be a Douglas DC-6, which is the DC-6 and DC-7 were two of the piston planes that were very common back in the 50s that could hold between, I think, 42 and something like 80 some odd people if they maxed it out. And yes, there were some configurations that did have those lounge areas for the long flights. You got to remember, they were kind of competing with things like trains and ships that had those kind of things. And then later, the 747 would have the lounge upstairs and things. So for long flights, they had the lounge area. And yep, they had smoking in them. Crazy, but they did. And remember, these flights were long because these airplanes weren't going, 600 miles an hour. They were going, depending on the plane, 260 to maybe 340 miles an hour. so they took a lot longer to get there than a jet aircraft. And they weren't going at, 40,000 feet. They were going more at 24,000 feet. Anyway, this airplane, the DC-6, had a 25,000-foot maximum ceiling. I looked it up. So normally it was flying below that ceiling. During the movie, at one point they showed it at going through 40,000 feet, and then a little bit later 45,000, and then later they showed the altimeter, which actually showed it at 80,000 feet. I don't know why the altimeter went that high, but it showed 80. And then after that, they were talking on the ground about the radar or whatever finding it, and it was greater than 10 miles up, which, of course, is only 50 to 55,000 feet. So they played kind of fast and loose with the height. I also did not understand anything about them being raised up and the engine stopping and the air running out. Everybody would have died. They would have passed out a lot earlier than this. When they were at 40,000 feet, you got to remember Everest is only at 28,000. When they were at 48,000 feet, they would all been laying there unconscious, and some people would probably be starting to die. So when they went up above 80,000 feet, they wouldn't be alive. And the airplane, that pressurized airplane, wouldn't survive at that altitude. Anyway, probably the windows would pop out or something, or rivets would start coming out in the fuselage. Some other things I didn't understand, when the guy who says, "Nobody calls me crazy," whose wife is blind, when he goes back in the back, and for some reason, he's crazy, so he doesn't need a reason, I guess. He decides he's going to leave the airplane. I don't know what good that's going to do. He seemed to be very agitated, but why do you want to leave the airplane? Just jump out. So he opens the door and back, conveniently on the side over there, and the hatch falls out. Now, I do not know if a DC-6 had a door like that in the back. I kind of doubt it. But if it did, I seriously doubt it would fall out. All pressurized planes made, I know since then, have doors which, when the door is in place, the air pressure in the airplane is holding the door against seals. And at altitude, even at a few thousand feet, the pressure is so high that it's impossible for a team, a human or a group of humans, to open the door up. It's just the pressure is way too high. So that wouldn't be possible for that door to just immediately fall out. And then the other guy didn't get immediately sucked out, even though he was right adjacent to it. That didn't make any sense at all. I don't know. And then later, the doctor is sitting back there next to the open door. That's stupid. Anyway, the open hatch in the back didn't make any sense. The time stopping in their watches is 6 p.m. Why? Why? Explanation. What did that have to do with anything else? Why that particular time? I did think it was neat, at least, that the computer programmer was a woman talking about the electronic brain, and computers were critical to making nuclear weapons work. But the guy, they talked about having clearances, but the guy had these key equations or things written on a little notepad. Number one, it would have taken a lot more information than that to be of any use. And he was carrying it around in his pocket, which is very insecure. And then he tears it out and throws it in a trash can without even ripping it into little tiny shreds, which is triply insecure, where anybody could get it and build another weapon. no semblance of security. So that bothered me greatly. I did not understand the trial. Number one, if these people were in the future, then if they existed in the future, then the bomb hadn't occurred. But they showed photos of the whole Earth being killed. Nothing was alive. So, were there multiple futures? How do the people in the future know about these multiple futures? Didn't make any sense. I didn't understand this at all. And if all they wanted to do, if they thought they could change the future, you'd think they could just take them and just take them away or something. But no, they wanted to hold them in limbo and put them on trial for some stupid reason. Made no sense. Into my plot comments. N5DD. Thank you.
All right, Bill, thank you very much. I have answers to certain questions, not all of them. I will remind you, get yourself a handkerchief, because nosebleeds and time travel paradoxes, which is what you have here, always causes problems. You know that. So sit down, get one of the, what is it, the paper bag, put it over your mouth, breathe deeply, and calm down. Because time travel doesn't make any frickin' sense. You know that. Trying to make sense of time travel stories doesn't work. And that's because we're talking about people from the future telling people from the past, which is actually the present, what to do. That's difficult. Okay, Guy, I'm sorry. You were part of the random. I put you at the bottom of the list only because I was doing this blindfolded. And thankfully that person took the blindfold off. So K1GBD, Guy, your thoughts on the plot on this film. You've had an opportunity to listen to everybody's comments and expand and improve. Please go ahead from KE5I6.
K1GBD, I have moved to my HT, so can you let me know that I sound all right before I start to expound upon the movie?
Well, you sound fine. The shag carpet below you is not as good, but, harvest gold is harvest gold. So please go ahead. You sound fine from KE5I6.
Copy that. Thank you, sir. Okay, well, I've had a very a unique opportunity here because I paused the movie at least by YouTube count 44 minutes and I think 16 seconds, which is right when Mr. So-and-so and Miss So-and-so discover that the doctor is no longer in his seat, the crazy doctor who's jumped out of the plane. And that's where I stopped because I got into doing some other things and I'm trying to write some Arduino code while doing that, and the 60s and Arduino don't mix. So though it was mind-numbingly dull, and I was asking myself several times, why are we watching this movie? It was outrageously off-putting. I was not driven into into rage or disbelief like so many others before me seem to have been. And I think it's because I finally scrubbed forward, and I think it's 2 or 3 minutes later when the guy in the white shirt shows up, and then it really goes off the rails. And it's so interesting how I swear what it looks like happened was it's almost like, how these days they'll do like an all-night like a play or a show kind of deal where you'll get like a writer and a director and a DP and a whole crew together, and you'll stay up all night and you'll write a script and you'll shoot it, and it almost feels like that's what this was, where they started and they're like, okay, I've got a great idea. No one's ever done this before. All of these people get on this plane and they take off, and then something weird happens and the plane starts to climb. They don't know why, and they had this cool idea for, okay, something happens, and then they couldn't figure out what to do. And so everybody, like, you know, like they tapped out and they changed teams, and the second team came in and they're like, okay, well, we've got an idea, and it's about the future humanity judging the past humanity. But they didn't have time to write their whole script from the beginning, so they just had to take what the first team wrote and tack onto it. They're like, okay, so I guess we'll have to just say that these people in this plane, whatever was going to happen in the previous story, now it turns out that they're being judged. And having watched it before all the weird stuff started to happen, that's almost like kind of feels like that's what happened. Like two movies were like two really bad movies, or a bad movie and then what could have been in Gene Roddenberry's hands, probably a pretty good Star Trek episode, got just sort of smushed together unceremoniously, and no one even tried to figure out how to do it or why to do it, and then it just kind of like fell off a cliff or fell out of the sky or whatever. So I'm kind of glad I didn't see the end and then I just kind of heard about it, because I had an opportunity to see it through this what I think is very charmed lens. So that's what I got. It was, I mean, it's definitely a terrible movie. I enjoyed the sexist. I mean, I don't enjoy sexism, but I'll take my steak rare and everybody's darling and all that stuff. That's good stuff. And I'm with Bill. I have to say, of all of the unbelievable things, the fact that the door, there was a pressurized door like in the hangout cabin, and you just kind of open it and it falls out of the plane. And there's no, and the other guy isn't sucked out, and there's no depressurization, but that's been covered already. So, so that's what I got. K1GBD.
Thank you, Guy, and you've got the best comments tonight. What does God need with a DC-6? Well, the answer is he doesn't. Okay. Let me go ahead and open it up. Anyone else who would like to check in and talk about tonight's movie, Flight That Disappeared, or The Flight That Disappeared, if you're anal retentive, from 1961. You don't even have to have seen the movie. You can talk about, I don't know, anything you want with a DC-6 in it. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see Flight That Disappeared? All right, I know. Everybody turned their radios off and they're hiding under their beds. I know that. I understand that. We had major storms come through. Let me go back and look. Oh, here's I gotta go back and look at it. It's off. It's passed through Dallas now, this big storm, heavy stuff. It completely missed me, although I unplugged everything for the 10th frickin' time. All the antennas have been unplugged 10 times since February. I'm getting tired of doing that, but in any case. Okay, so about the movie and the plot. This thing starts out, it's very interesting. And like most of the science fiction films that we have watched, from the most recent to the ancient past, which could be as Tuesday, the thing about them is that everybody has a great idea, and Guy always has got this right, and that is, and he's mentioned this before, and that is that you start out with a great idea. You think you're gonna do something. There's a mystery. What's happening? The plane's taken over. The pitch story is, what happens next? Nobody knows. How are we going to take care of it? Where's Marcia? Marcia's not there. That sort of thing. And what happens is the story starts to peter out, because now you got to figure out what to do beyond the fact that this extreme weirdness is happening. The plane can't go to these altitudes. The idea is fantastic. It's outside of the realm of possibilities. They're in the metaphysical. It's a Twilight Zone episode, except for one problem. It doesn't have Rod Serling, so it's not gonna work, man. And who is it? James Whitmore's in the thing? He looks like James Whitmore. Maybe it's not James Whitmore. I don't know. In one of the descriptions of this film, in fact, it's Netflix, it says the airplane goes to heaven. Now, I don't remember them ever mentioning that anywhere in the movie, but Netflix says it's true, so it must be. So when the plot goes into such a weird state and people decide to make up stories in the description to get you to buy the movie, who have never seen the movie, you gotta wonder, what does this all mean? This story had already been done to a certain extent. If it's space aliens or future, well, it's future people. We don't know if they're future people with space aliens or whether they're future Earthlings or whether it's God and heaven and they're telling them that they got to fix this problem or whatever. It doesn't matter. The story's been done a bazillion million times, and it was mentioned earlier, I think, about Star Trek and that they've done. This is about 5 different episodes of Star Trek when you think about it, to fix everything. Tomorrow is Yesterday, City on the Edge of Forever, the Q episodes, Journey to Farpoint, and The Thing Never Ends, and all of that. So if Star Trek's done it 12,000 times, you know it's been done 12 million times before that. So, what do you say and what do you do? Well, getting back to the original thing is the story has this wonderful axiomatic thing going on. You're thinking, they're taking us for a ride to 80,000 feet without engines. We're expecting aliens to what we need to do. Michael Rennie is going to be there to jump in and explain everything to us after he gets the gunshot wound fixed. And we don't get that. We get James Whitmore explaining to us sort of on Mount Olympus what we should do, and then says, you know, in godlike powers, geez, I never even thought about the fact that maybe you guys could make up your own minds along the way after we take over your DC-6. I don't know. It's very odd. It kind of fell flat. I don't remember who wrote the thing. It's nobody I can remember anyway, but maybe not tonight anyhow. How does this all work out? I don't know. They should have done more. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have had the chicken on the flight. Okay. This is KE5ICX. Those are my comments, wandering and rambling. Anybody else want to join in tonight? Please come with your call sign name. Did you see this movie? And that's not a qualification for checking in. All you have to do is have seen a movie with an airplane in it. That's really all you need to do. Come with your call sign, your name. Did you see Flight That Disappeared from 1961? Please come now.
KI5, KRP, that's Kilo India 5, Kilo Romeo Papa.
Kilo India 5, Papa Whiskey November, Tom in Plano, and I've seen a movie with an airplane in it.
Okay, excellent. We've lowered the bar. I got 2 more in. I got KI5KIP. I got KI5PWN. Tom, who saw a plane. He might even be in Plano, but I'm sure you saw a plane. KI5KIP, can I get your name? And did you see this film, or have you seen a movie with a plane? Go ahead.
The correction on that call sign is Kilo India 5, Kilo Romeo Papa. I may not be making it in too well. I'm mobile right now. I'm about to pull into my driveway. My name is Chris. I'm here in Kaufman. And the movie with a plane in it, that would be Live Free or Die Hard. It's got a plane in it.
Alright, I got you. KI5KRP, Chris in Kaufman, and had an airplane in it, and that was Die Hard. I think it was Die Hard 2 on the ILS final approach, and they crashed, the terrorists crashed the airplane. Absolutely. Yeah, you got any comments about movies with airplanes? So go ahead.
I'm not hearing you too well. You're real scratchy here on my end. That's why I'm hearing my neighbor. I'm about to pull in my driveway, so I'm got spotty signal here in the truck. I'm doing better getting in the house.
All right, Chris, go in the house. I'll come back to you. I'm going to talk to Tom, KI5PWN. He's seen a movie with a plane. Tom, would you like to describe the movie and your thoughts on it? Go ahead, from KE5I6.
So the movie I'm thinking of is one of my favorite all-time comedies. It's called Airplane, and it's one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. KI5PWN.
Well, thank you, Tom. And to be honest with you, I too have that's a favorite movie. But it was, and we actually reviewed the original primordial film for that, which was what's the name of that film? I can't remember. What was it? Countdown to Zero. I should know this. I've already forgotten. But at any rate, it was a movie that was done in the 50s, and they bought the script for Airplane, and everything in the script, all the straight dialogue that they did, that was actually incorporated into Airplane. It was fantastic. That's why everybody's so corny in it. Even the Stryker character, all the lines about Stryker, and his failure during war and everything else, it was there, including the line that I picked the wrong day to give up drinking coffee, was a line from Countdown Zero or something. I can't remember the doggone name of the movie, but at any rate, all the lines came from that movie from the 1950s. So if you like Airplane, then you're going to love, I can't remember the doggone name of the movie. Does anybody remember the name of the doggone movie? Please come now.
0 Hour, NT5TM.
What NT5TM said, 0 Hour. Tom, are you willing to watch a movie that was a serious movie but couldn't be taken seriously, and then watch a silly movie that could never be taken seriously? 0 Hour. What do you think, Tom, from KE5I6?
Absolutely. If it's related to the movie Airplane and was the foundation for that, I'd be more than willing to watch it, probably several times. KI5PWN.
All right, excellent. And as I said, you never have to be afraid to check in on this net, because who knows what the heck is going to happen. It could be anything at all. All right, I'm going to we'll come back to you, Tom, if you're still there later. Very good. 0 Hour is what you got to watch. Let's see here. Chris may have transitioned. I don't know. I'll make some comments here from what I saw. And thank you all for your comments, because I can build or or otherwise not build on these comments. The DC-6, the air could be entered from actually the right side of the airplane rather than the left. I don't know, many of the prop aircraft are actually entered for passenger aircraft on the right side of the aircraft, the starboard side. So they would get on board, the pilots would be to the right, and then they would go to the left. Now, the sliding door thing, the scientists falling out of the airplane, was on the left side of the aircraft. That's actually towards the rear of the DC-6. And the lounge is just behind it, which in this film, of course, is right there. Everybody's drinking martinis, and then the guy says, well, I'm leaving now because I'm really depressed, and he leaves. And they continue drinking their martinis. And that's out of the left side or the port side of the aircraft. Now, if you get lost on any of this really technical stuff, please just do a break. So he jumps out of the airplane. Of course, the door kind of falls out. And I don't know, I guess Bill decided to get all excited about pressurization at 80,000 feet. Well, they're in a dream sequence. Everybody is neutral. So time is frozen. And of course, when time is frozen, people can talk and do things and explain things, and there's nothing wrong with temperature, and they jump out into the cotton below, and that's perfectly fine. So frozen time is not really frozen. It's really kind of medium rare. So just thought I would mention that. Okay, let's see. Next is characterization. We'll go through the list. We'll start with Tony, NT5TM. Tony, if you want to talk about characterization, please go ahead. Otherwise, if you just want to rant about anything you want, that's perfectly fine. DC-6s have certain problematical things that were fixed on the DC-7. Please go ahead from KE5ICX.
Well, you know, my biggest problem with this movie was that I kept hearing lyrics from a crappy 80s song every time, we talked about this Endicott fellow. But I think that I was wrong. I think that my brain got off on the wrong track and Guy was right. The idea that they had just clumsily shoehorned two scripts together from a 24-hour player movie festival is exactly right, and I wish I'd thought of that, but I wasn't smart enough, so Guy wins. I have volunteered at 24-hour play festivals, and that is just the sort of oddball thing that happens when it's about 3 in the morning and you need to finish, and so random ideas get just smashed together and everyone has to start learning their lines. So other than praising Guy and being curious what you have to hear about the technical problems with the DC-6, I really have nothing to add. NT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony, and thank you for reminding me about Guy's comments on that, because he is absolutely right. There's a whole thing about story construction and script construction and trying to make things work. And yes, they go through multiple iterations of trying to make things happen, and that's with any movie. And that's why many movies suck, is because it's by committee. Very rarely do they work. Thank you, Guy. You get tonight's award for thinkability. Next up is Brenda, WB5OZL. What do you thinkability of the characterizations, or anything you want to talk about? Go ahead, from KE5ICX. Oh, we're talking about the flight that disappeared from 1961. Go.
This is WB5OZL. Yeah, it sure looked like it was slapped together, and when these people got together, I'm not sure they were even sober. The thing that strikes me is drive-in movie. They made so many mediocre movies during this era, and they sent them to drive-ins, and this was a point in time where going to the movies was pretty much all there was to do, especially if you're in a small town. And the movies rotated every week, and you went every week and saw whatever the new movie was. And we really weren't very discerning. We just watched anything because it's what we did. Occasionally there'd be something really good, but most of the time it was about like this. And, you go to the drive-in, are you really paying that close attention to the movie? It's just something to watch. And you may not have noticed whether or not it was a masterpiece. Characters. I don't buy that woman was a mathematician at all. Actually, I didn't, most of them I didn't really buy. They just weren't very believable to me. And the guy just jumping out of the airplane, that was nuts. I guess he was. Now, I question they started meal service shortly after they took off, because it's a long way to the other side, the other coast. They're going to have to feed them again. They're going to be hungry about Chicago. Anytime I've been somewhere where there was food service, it was generally mid-flight. They didn't start right after you left. So that was kind of unbelievable. And somebody made the comment about moving up to jets. Oh, yeah, that was very exciting. But the guy says, yeah, when you leave the left seat, I'm moving over. That's not how it works. Yeah, he will, but it's not his assumption that it's just automatic. And the process is a little more selective than that. Let's see. I'll quit rambling. Back to net. WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. She's really caught up with the DC6 stuff, and, well, okay, we'll explain it later. Next up, KB9SOK, Sean, your comments on characterization. Please go ahead.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, not a lot there in the characterization. Yeah, most of the characters were pretty flat. I thought, or over the top is one extreme or the other. Kind of some of the weirdness of it is, even the acting wasn't great. But anyway, when the plane disappeared and you had the two people at the air traffic control that, attempted to show some kind of enthusiasm or being upset was just almost laughable. Watch them do it. It was almost like watching Airplane. Maybe all the movies were made like that based on how they thought people acted. So yeah, that was strange. At the very end, they act like they were upset because the plane showed up. You think that there would have been, celebration that these people were found, and, instead they act like they were kind of not happy about the whole thing. So that was weird. But yeah, I agree with what the previous people said. I think Guy's right on. This was definitely just thrown together very quickly. That makes a lot of sense, actually. That's why it ended up the way it did. And the drive-in theater movies, I do remember those movies. Yeah, you didn't pay a lot of attention to them, and yeah, most of them really weren't that good, actually. Hadn't really given that much thought until you brought that up. Interesting point. I don't really have anything to add, so back to net control. This is KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. And next up, N5BB. Bill, your thoughts on characterization. I know you thought they were all A1, top drawer actors and characters, but please summarize as briefly as you can the complexity of these characters. will need help. Please go ahead from KE5IC. Oh, by the way, we're talking about Flight That Disappeared from 1961. Go ahead, Bill.
Hey, Tom. This is N5DB. I guess I don't have too much to say. I think most of the actors did a passable job in the acting and directing. I only mean passable. I don't mean good. So I kind of believe them. I'm not trying to be too tough on this. Characters that acted the most, emoted the most, was the blind woman with her husband that was crazy. And she's the one that got excited. Nobody else got excited. She got excited, really, in a believable way. And her husband was crazy, and so he wanders back, and I don't know why he did it, but he went out the door. But, you know, as far as his acting, I believed it. I believed his acting, let's put it that way. I did not understand any of the people when the time froze from the future. I didn't understand any of that characterization. Poorly done. It just didn't make any sense. I did not understand the guy that came in after they'd made a decision and overrode them. Who the heck was he? Why was he doing it? Where'd he come from? Did he come from another alternate universe? But if they had just said something, if they had just made... Why don't they speak English in the future that sounded like 1961 U.S. American English? Who knows? Anyway, I guess I have nothing more to say about the characterization. The movie was what it was. N5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill, and thanks for your comments. I'm so sorry, Jay, KG5BZW. I marked this thing, and I did such a sloppy job, I skipped over you. I'm so sorry. You were number 3 on the list, and you're almost last, so please, go ahead. Your comments on characterization from KE5ICX.
Oh, this is KG5BGW, and I really didn't have that much to say, but I did have some to say, so I do thank you for, interrupting the flow so I could get in. That's, I just thinking about the mashing two scripts together, and it's like, well, where's the second script? It's like they mashed one script and then bits of like 5 others, or I don't know. Maybe that may be too much. I don't know. When I'm saying bits of 5 others, I mean like micro bits. Like, I don't want to use very particularly descriptive words, but like the guy the second guy that comes in. They did not explain where it came from. I thought maybe this was some sort of impression of, maybe, I don't know, someone upper echelon of wherever the heaven these characters are from. Oh man. I'll agree. None of the characters really even. No. The flight crew I guess the front, those in the cockpit seemed okay to the test, and I don't know, the flight, the steward, this is seemed fine, except for there's of course that weird random romance angle that they had to plop in there. Oh man, it just for the characters to make sense, it seems like the plot has to make it a little bit more sense than it did. So that's all I can say. KG5BGW.
Thank you, Jay. And I'm sorry I left you behind there. My notes were so sloppy that I missed you because you're at the very bottom of my list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And somehow or another, I threw the little score through it after Tony, and then you got left out after that on the second round. I have this very elaborate system where I have a check mark, and I have a little line that goes through the check mark, and then I have this thing where I just rip the name off completely from the list so that it's totally obscured on the third round. And then I take and I have this spiral notebook, and then I take and I throw it in a blazing fire, and then I put gasoline on top of it. That way then I know that everything has been taken care of on this net. Next up is K1GBD. Guy, your comments on characterization. Please go ahead from KE5ICX.
You know, honestly, I don't know that I have much to say about characterization, other than, you know, of all of the flat parts of it, I mean, that was the part I think I just immediately went numb to it and just got dialed into sort of just the 60s milieu of the whole thing, because I didn't feel like there really was any characterization. I think that the doctor who jumped out the door was the most interesting part of the whole thing. And honestly, if a third team had come in at like 6 in the morning with fresh coffee and donuts, they probably could have gone back and done something with him, because, you know, there were a lot of like different weird things going on with him, and he seemed to be the key to it all. And, you know, it's like the like you said, it was like the Twilight Zone without Ross Erling, and it reminds me of the original one, and then the one in the movie with John Lithgow where there's the gremlin on the plane, and he looks crazy, but it turns out that he's right the whole time. So that would have been kind of cool to see something happen with him. But everybody else, it was, you know, there was like the philanderer guy and the, you know, the hotshot pilots and the, you know, I mean, it just, yeah, there was nothing going on there. That was very black and white as far as the characterization. K1GBD.
Thank you, Jay. I think that was, I always get the number mixed up. I think it's Terra 25,000 Feet is the movie that you're thinking of, and that had William Shatner, and then it had, who you just mentioned. I'll think of his name. And that was written by Jerome Bixby. And he went on and did Mirror Universe, Mirror episode for Star Trek, but he also wrote tons of stuff for the Twilight Zone. So, at any rate, just thought I'd mention that, even though I can't remember. John Lithgow. John T. Oh, watch him in, by the way, you can see him in, what is it, All That Jazz. Watch him in All That Jazz in this like his premier role. It's very good. John Lithgow. Okay, let's see here. Oh, let's see. I've got I've got Chris, KI5KRP, and I've got KI5PWN, Tom. You guys got anything you want to say about the film? Anything, airplanes, either of you? KRP, Chris, comments on airplanes. Go ahead. I have a feeling Chris went inside. He was out in his car listening intently and then went inside and probably went to bed. Tom, KI5PWN. He knows about airplanes. Tom, what do you, any comments? You're watching Zero Hour right now, aren't you? Please go ahead from KE5I6.
This is KI5BWN. So I tried doing some homework since I hadn't seen the movie. And one of the actresses, Paula Raymond, who apparently played Marsha Paxton, who was one of the 3 doctors, I guess, that were frozen in time. I just looked her up on the internet, and she had a run of bad luck after this movie. So when you look her up on Wikipedia, it says in 1962 she was a passenger in a car that crashed into a tree on Sunset Boulevard. Her nose was severed by the rear view mirror. After a little more than a year of extensive plastic surgery and recovery, she returned to acting in 1977. In 1977, while working on the soap opera Days of Our Lives, after only 3 appearances, she accidentally tripped on a telephone cord and broke her ankle. She was written out of the show, and in 1984, she broke both of her hips, and in 1994, she broke her shoulder. So a lot of bad luck happened to her after that movie. KI5BWN.
Marsha. And that football thing seems so trivial now. Well, thank you, Tom, and thank you for looking that up. See, you can add color and context and content to this. The 3 C's, which are really important, especially on radio. The color part is really important. Okay, well, we're getting to 11:57, so I'm just going to open it up. Anybody that has any comments about anything, come with your call sign now.
KD2 SSC. Yeah, just monitoring. It's interesting to see how y'all, have fun on the radio. Very nice to monitor. Back to net control, KD2 SSC.
Oh, well, thank you. I think I got Kilo Delta 2, Sierra Bravo, maybe something close to that?
Negative. Call sign here is Kilo Delta 2, Sierra Charlie. And, yep, so I'll hand it back over to you. Name here is Shane.
All right, Shane. Well, thank you. Are you in the area here for a while, or are you just visiting?
Oh, I actually live in Dallas. I'm actually from DFW, but I lived in New York for a while, hence the number 2 in the call sign. Got my license up there.
Well, welcome, Shane. I'm glad you're here, and you can participate on the net anytime. We do this every Saturday night at 10:30 till midnight. We talk about some movie that Brenda has chosen. She picks all the bad movies, and other people pick good movies. But tonight's movie, apparently she picked because it didn't work out that well. But, yeah, come on by. Saturday night is Night of Nets on this repeater starting at, really, it kind of starts at 6:30 and goes all the way until midnight. So welcome aboard, and please come back. I think you'll have a lot of fun. By the way, I'm going to go ahead, and since nobody had any additional comments, I'll tell you what next week's movie is. Are you ready? Are you ready for this? The next week's movie is And I got to remember. Hang on. I remember Galaxy Quest. Galaxy Quest, yes, a real movie with real stars and money they put behind it. Galaxy Quest is next week's movie. It's streaming free right now. If you want to find the information out on that, go to Facebook if you want. Facebook, which is Afterglow Movie, 2 words, Afterglow and Movie with 2 words, and just sign up for that. You'll find it there. If you're not into that, go ahead and send me an email at my call sign Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-ray KE5ICX@yahoo.com. I'll send you the information on this week's movie. I usually send it out Sunday morning, and I'll probably do that tomorrow morning, of course, with the information as to where you can stream the movie. I'll give you multiple links. Free is always best. If there's a subscription version without ads and stuff like that, I'll send you that. But there you have it, and I want to thank everybody who checked in tonight. I think it was a lot of fun, even though the movie wasn't all that good. It was still interesting. DC-6 was interesting, and now that I learned that they board on the right side and people die on the jump out of on the left side because they're crazy, that's good to know next time I fly on a DC-6, which probably won't be anytime soon. Okay, I'm going to say 7-3 to everybody. Thank you. We'll see you next week. Stay out of trouble. And remember to always carry your ID. This is KE5ICX. I'm going to go ahead and close it down at 12:02 local time. 7-3 or 0002 hour. 7-3. See y'all later. KE5ICX. Clear.
KD2 SSC. That sounds pretty cool. So I'll probably be sticking around with y'all for Galaxy Quest. Looking forward to it. KD2 SSC, clear.
Your heartbeat and look at your watch. If it says 6 o'clock, then you're probably still dead or frozen. I don't know how you can walk around with no heartbeat. Either time is frozen or it's not. What a goofy plot. Inside BB clear. Good night.